Everything's going to be okay. My ego would have pushed me to the finish before, for the reasons we just talked about. At this point, it was like I surrendered, and I know that surrendering gives me just as much accomplishment as finishing.
It's Golden Hour Adventure Time, featuring everyday people doing extraordinary things. From the peaks of victory to the valleys of defeat, these are their stories. Now, from the back of the pack, your hosts, Justin and Robbie.
Welcome to Golden Hour Adventures. Man, that sounds really good to say. It's been so long since we've said that. It has. What's it been? Has it been a month since we've recorded a podcast? I think so. We dropped some podcasts that you guys enjoyed. We grabbed some that we thought were really cool and were special to us. Some that were funny, some that had really great stories. And then we just didn't give you anything last week because, you know what? Robbie and I were sulking in our pain of our recent DNF, and we wanted you to sulk as well. So, surprise, we're back.
No, I put something on there.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Disregard everything I just said.
I put Brian Harms is on there. I figured that he deserved.
Yeah.
He deserved it.
All right. Well, see, that's how much I know. So.
In my self-pity, I was like, this guy just came in second place. He deserves his podcast to be played again.
Yeah. That's fair. Brian, God, that dude, it was incredible. So what an incredible performance he had out there at the Cowboy. He must live like really close to the sun. I think he lives closer to the sun than what we do because
yeah, I think so.
He was not affected by the sun.
No.
And I think everybody else in that race was affected by the sun. Some more than others, maybe, but anyway. Well, how are you feeling, Robbie? It's been over a week since we pulled the trigger and pulled ourselves out of the Cowboy 200. Look, hey, I'm wearing the shirt. I know that that's a crazy thing among like racing. Like, you don't get to wear the shirt because you DNF. You didn't finish. It's like, I paid for the race. This is an expensive shirt. I'm going to wear it. I don't care. It tells a story. Anyway.
It does tell a story. I almost put mine on, but I wore it on Friday, so I wore my shirt too.
See, Robbie wears his shirt too, right?
And I wore it to a high school football game.
There you go. And people are like, well, dang, 200. Like, no. I didn't actually run the 200. I DNF. So maybe I'll take my Sharpie here and just write 200 DNF on it. So then I don't get a lot of questions.
That is a great idea, actually.
Like, I've never heard of the Cowboy 200 DNF. What is that race? Like, oh gosh.
Put your 55 miles on it. I could put my 38.
Yeah, 55 miles. I only ran 55 miles. There is a little spot right here. I can put the DNF right there. I might do that. That'd be funny. That'd be hilarious.
I feel fine. Yeah. I was sore for a few days. But other than that, I feel pretty good. Went for a run yesterday. Mike and I are trying to put together a pretty big route. We're going to try to do late November, early December. So we didn't have one area that we didn't know the mileage. And with Strava, you can't really make mileage because there's no trail. So we just went out and figured out what the mileage was. Then now we get to put the rest of it together and we just got to go do it.
Walk us through your day, the Cowboy.
My day. Woke up, had my stuff all ready to go. You know, one thing I didn't realize is the hour time change. So that messed me up a little bit on the way down there and my sleep anyways. Woke up, went downstairs, and the hotel I was staying at actually had their breakfast, continental breakfast going, but I didn't see anything I liked. Bunch of people down there getting ready for the race. Felt pretty normal. You and Bethany picked me up and we headed to the start and we just chilled. I mean, I wasn't nervous. I don't know. It was pretty different than usual. Didn't have to go to the bathroom. Didn't have to run for a porta potty or anything like that. We just hung out. And
what do you think the difference is in previous races that you've done where you've been nervous or had to go to the bathroom because of nerves?
Yeah, our goal was just to finish. So I guess with all that, there was no worry about And to be honest, this was a flat course. Most of the stuff that I've ran has been mountainous courses, and there can be a lot of logistics, but there is a lot of thoughts of hills you have to climb and where to place something you might need. Like take Bighorn, you might want to have some socks and sallies both ways if it's muddy, stuff like that. Didn't really have to think about any of that for this one. So it was more of really just like, let's go out and start walking, running, doing our thing.
Go ahead.
I forgot I was still talking.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I forgot to remember how to podcast again. Yeah, then, we just hung out in the car. Then, we got out there like 5 minutes or something before the start, and we're all standing there. And the guy played the national anthem on the trumpet. That was really cool. Got to see that. Then we started, and we just started walking because that was our goal, to walk the first mile with the walkers. And I thought it was really cool. It was just a bunch of us walking. We were just chatting, and the weather was perfect. It was nice and cool. Then we got 2 mile one, and we started running. That's about it. Of course, there's more to it, but that's about how it started. What about you?
Yeah. Yeah. Same. Not much difference. When did you, so walk us through the reason why you took a DNF? Because yours was a bit different than mine. I mean, there was a little bit of heat issue, I think, with you as well, but you had more, some leg issues.
Yeah. Everything was good. We hit that first aid station, and it was a so-called unmanned aid station, but they had grab and go food, and there was all kinds of good stuff there. I grabbed a Pop-Tart, and
There was some good stuff there.
grabbed a Pop-Tart and an Uncrustable, and we filled up our water, and our spirits were still high. Then we kept on moving on. Then the sun came up. The sun was up at that point, but it was still pretty cool. Then the course kind of finally makes it to the highway, and you're kind of exposed in spots early on in that. We were good till about that. I was good till about that 20-mile mark, and we hit that aid station in the fire station. And that's kind of where I was still okay, and nothing was wrong at that point. I was hoping for a little more at the aid station than what I got. That's probably could be my own fault, because I wanted some. They had ice, they had stuff, but I wanted some food, like some normal food, and they didn't. What they had just wasn't exciting, and I kind of left a little bummed out that there wasn't anything that I wanted to eat for solid food. I mean, I ate some fruit. They had very limited fruit there, and I ate some of that. And we were going and doing our run walk, and we started, and man, I just got a few steps in, and my left adductor started cramping. And anytime that adductor starts cramping, I'm pretty much over. And we were 20 miles in, and I felt that, and I was like, maybe I can get rid of it. And you saw me when I had to start walking immediately, because it'll just stop me in my tracks. And I had to walk. Pretty painful. Then it went away. Then I was able to keep doing our run walk. Then, man, it just got hot, and we were next to the highway. And
yeah,
I mean, the best part was when we were looking at all the weed that was growing on the side of the trail. We were talking about that. Then we started getting closer to that water station. And at that point, we were both kind of still run walking. I was trying, but I was suffering pretty good. We got to that water station. The water was cold. And we took a left, and we got on that asphalt. And we knew there was a reroute. That was the first reroute. And people kept talking about how bad that reroute was when we were just going. Multiple people said, this reroute sucks. And when we got water, there was that sheriff there that was like, what are you guys doing? How many are you? And I'm like, what? What do you mean? This is a race. And it kind of took me by surprise. It's the way he jumped out of his car like we were in trouble.
Yeah.
And I could sense that from the other people too, because at this point, how many was there? There's
probably like 5 or 6 of us.
Yeah, 5 or 6 of us getting water at that point. And right before the sheriff pulled up, this guy that looks like Brian Shaw, what was his, KP Kelly? He was like, if you guys can make it through, this is like the crux of the race. This is the hardest section. I'm like, whatever. I wasn't really, didn't matter at that point. Then the sheriff jumped out. Then, after the sheriff kind of was like, how many of you guys are back there? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, everyone's, we don't know. This is a race. Like,
yeah,
there's some back there. Then he kind of made it his point what he was going to do. Then he was like, well, I'm going to go up, and there's people working up here off this dirt road, and they're running heavy equipment. I just want to go up there and tell them that there's people coming. Well, you could have done that as soon as you got out of the car. Like, I know this is middle of nowhere, Nebraska, and you probably think we're crazy because this happens once a year. People are walking on this trail that you probably never see anyone on.
Yeah.
So we made that turn, and like it was kind of cool running, or I was walking at this point through that little town. And we turned and we made a couple more turns, and we're on this road. And one side was all that corn, the other side there were some houses and a wrecking yard, other random stuff. Then I just remember I'm like, we got to be turning again soon. And it was forever. Then we got to that point where you could just see as far as you could see.
Yep.
And there were some hills, nothing big, but there were some hills on this part. Once we got out of that little town, we were all exposed, and the asphalt was so hot. And, we were together, then you got ahead of me pretty far. Then this is when it seems like everything just took a turn for its worse. I had my a little waist belt thing that I bought to hold my bib. Well, it fell off, and I looked down and it was gone. I turned around and looked, and it wasn't that far back, maybe 100 yards back. And I turned around and picked it up. Then all the people that were behind us passed me. I didn't really care. Then I put it back on. I was struggling to get it back on because I don't even know what happened with it, but it just came off. Then we just keep walking on this asphalt road. Then I finally see the turn where we get on that dirt, and you're there waiting for me. Then we turned on that dirt, and there was that downhill. And then, we started running, and as soon as those first couple steps again, my adductor just cramped really bad to the point where I stopped. Then all of a sudden my right ass cheek started spasming. My glue was just like doing weird. Yeah, I was doing weird stuff. And I knew at that point that I was compensating on probably both sides. And I was just in a bad place. Walking on that dirt road was horrible too. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever done, but I looked down at my watch and I was keeping track of my pace, and now I'm like into 19, 20-minute miles. And I'm like, well, I can keep going, but at some point I'm going to be starting to chase cutoffs, and that ain't going to be very fun if I have to sit there and chase cutoffs for a 200-miler when I'm only, 30-ish mile. Well, I guess we were at that turn. I guess we were at 35 miles, I guess.
Yeah.
There's another
38, 38 was that aid station.
Yeah. So another 3 miles from that where we turned. Then, you were waiting up, and I knew I was slowing you down. We, just kept getting past, and finally was like, just go ahead. And you're like, you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm going slow. And, I was thinking about going on when I hit that asphalt again. I looked at my watch, and it was like 25 to 29-minute miles. And all I wanted to do was sit down. I was like, if I can just find somewhere to sit down and, maybe regroup a little bit here. But there was nowhere to sit down. I would have been just sitting on the ground, and I didn't want to sit on all those sandburs and whatever else was on that ground because there was nothing but corn and silage once we hit the asphalt.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay. So I just kept walking. I'm like, I just need to find a place to sit down. And there was nowhere to sit down, not even a log or a rock. There were some fences, but there were barbed wire, so I couldn't sit on the barbed wire. And I don't remember then those silage trucks started passing me. And those young kids, 14, 15-year-old, flying by in those big trucks going 50, 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, they were flying.
Yeah. And whatever, they're working. It's nothing of their fault. But I wasn't very happy at that point. I was in a bad place. And I'm like, I couldn't move fast enough. I was in their way, but because they were just driving right down the middle of the road. But I don't know if you remember when you make that turn to the right and there was some houses, then you started headed towards to the town and the river. There was a cable box. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go sit on that cable box. So I walked down the grass in this embankment, sat on the cable box. And it wasn't comfortable. Like I couldn't relieve any tension off my muscles or anything. So then I get passed by 2 girls at that point, and I'm barely moving. Then my right leg is just doing all kinds of crazy stuff. My glute keeps firing, then seizing up, then releasing, all that stuff. Then, I'm like, it wasn't going to be fun trying to catch up. I wasn't down, Like I wasn't in a bad place. I was just kind of in pain, and it, I don't know how to explain it, but it just wasn't a good place. Like you, at one point, you asked me like, "Are you in a low spot?" And I was kind of in a low spot, but it wasn't from food or water or anything. Like I was just suffering, and I knew I was suffering way too early. Then just kept walking. Then there's that bridge that we had to cross.
Yeah.
It's an old bridge, like made out of wood. And as I was walking across it, cars were driving across it. I don't know if you had any cars drive across that bridge when you're walking across it, but it was like they were just planks, and like one foot was on each plank. And when the cars were driving, I was like shaking the bridge, and my legs were just like, I was so wobbly. I was like, whoa, this is bad. Crossed another bridge, and I was like, oh, I was surprised to still see you when I walked in that aid station. I thought you'd been gone. And I'm like, oh, I'm done. Then I told you guys that as soon as I walked in. That little young kid that met me with a popsicle. I'm like, I'm done. And of course she's like, you got 4 hours. I'm like, I know, I'm just done. So that was about it. And I don't regret quitting. As I kind of told you, I didn't train much. I was hoping I could make 200 miles off of 10, 20, 30-mile weeks, but it wasn't my day. And I've had a lot of other life stuff going on, and I'd be lying to say that didn't affect where I was at. And, there was times, well, I could just use that as motivation and fuel. And I was like, well, that's not what would have done that motivation, would have fueled me correctly. So my emotional exhaustion was just like at the end, and I couldn't give any more of trying to walk another 160 miles, even with company or anything like that. It was like all my fucks were gone. And there was no fucks that were going to bring it back. Like, even if my legs were fine and everything was good, like my emotional exhaustion was just depleted. And I told myself that this is probably a boundary I need to set, and just pull the plug. That's what I did. And that's why I don't feel bad about stopping. Just life circumstances that, I can't control, and stuff happened. And, like on the way there, I got a text from my daughter with some shit going on in her life. And like that was just adding to the fuel. And I'm just like, maybe I can just go walk this out. And now that I look back, I don't think I was in the right headspace to walk it out. I'm still working through this stuff. It's like we talk about using running a lot, to help us through life, but I don't see where walking another 160 miles would have helped me through life where I'm at. So that's kind of where I was at.
Was this the first time that you had ever pulled the trigger on a DNF in that circumstance?
No, never. No, never. I've never this is like the first time in my life that this like whole accumulation of emotional exhaustion has happened. The other time I DNF'd, I just got divorced, and I was very angry, and I was mad at the course. I was sick. I was 30 miles in on 100, and I was sick of walking on 4x4 roads. I couldn't, every rock was like on all kinds of rocks, right? It was in Colorado, and every rock was going through creeks, all that. And I'm just like, I don't want to spend, and I'd been 30 miles on dirt roads, and I'm like, I do not want to go another 70 miles on dirt roads. And I was way ahead of cutoff. I was way up there, and so that one was totally different. But no, this was totally different.
Do you think that you're more emotionally, what's the word I'm looking for? More emotionally mature now that you're sober, and you're realizing and recognizing things that, not only affect you, but affect your family. And, you mentioned on your way down to the Cowboy that your daughter texted you something. And so that was affecting you mentally as well. But when you don't have another substance to take away the pain, you're more emotionally mature now. I feel that you're realizing like, hey, this is not worth it. Where maybe in the past when you could have, because drinking is a very common thing in these races, and, using marijuana probably, I've never used marijuana in a race before. So it's just like, but I would assume that, marijuana use is something that could easily use to numb the pain in a race like this. But with not having that substance do you think that your thought process was a bit different?
My My emotional intelligence is like tenfold from what it was when I was using. I used to run from things, numb the pain, and, you know, at mile 40 or 38 in Cowboy, I would have probably ate some edibles and probably would kept on going. Maybe would have had a beer if there was one around, or a shot, or and that might have got me, maybe another 50, 60 miles. Then I would have been relying on that to keep me going. And I would have just going into that with everything that's been going on, none of those would have been problems because I've been running from them. So I was already would have been, running from all that, and it wouldn't be where I was at that point because I'd just be completely numb to it. So yes, I think, if I was still using, I would have just started using and I would have made it farther. I know that 100% because that's what I did in the past. Anytime a race got hard or I was struggling before the race, I would just get high and I would keep getting high. And once I found some alcohol, I would just start drinking. I wasn't getting drunk out on the course. I was definitely super high. I can, say that, but
Well, you would
I
have
wasn't.
plenty. You would have had plenty right there.
I know, right? um, but yeah, that's a good point. My emotional intelligence is definitely, night and day different from 3 years ago, where I would have, and you know what else? I would have been using um those carrots and be able to use, like, oh, I can get an edible here, or I can get a drink of beer here, or I can get a shot there. I would have used those carrots to get me somewhere because that's what my addiction did to me. That was always the good side, that I can continue and keep running from whatever it was. I would just hang that out there and be like, and we were walking with that guy, and when we got water, he was talking about getting a beer over across the street, and I was like, holy shit, getting a beer wherever we were, mile 30. And he was already talking about getting one. Then he was like, well, I'll just wait till the next gas station. I'm like, that brought up some weird emotions, but I am putting those together now. But yeah, I totally different if I would have been still in active addiction.
Yeah. What did you learn about yourself in this adventure?
I think, I think the cool part is the learning still coming, because every day, when I think about what happened, I can find some tidbits of good and some questions of why. What I really learned um, about myself is it's okay. Everything's gonna be okay. I don't. My ego would have pushed me to the finish before for the reasons we just talked about. But at this point, it was like I surrendered, and I know that surrendering gives me just as much accomplishment as finishing the going across the finish line. So every day it's just like, and the people that know me get to it, they're like, some people are asking that don't know me very well are like, why'd you quit? People that, know me, I'm like, told them, and they're like, I get it. And some people I didn't have to tell, right? And they're like, I understand, don't worry about it. I don't care. Well, like I made it 38 miles. That's an accomplishment in itself with where I've been. So I got to take that as some good too, and give myself some grace. I need to learn to give myself some grace instead of beating myself up all the time I wouldn't say that now, but in the past, I would beat myself up all the time, every single day. I was really good at beating myself up for everything. Like, why did you do this or that? So I think that's what I really learned about myself is it's okay. I do these things because I can and I like to. And the finish line isn't always the end goal.
I like that. I like that. Speaking of finish lines, this is maybe a question on a little bit of a lighter side. Now that you pop your cherry of coming back into the racing scene, when can we expect Robbie Pike to have another registration on Ultrasonic?
When I was in the hotel that night, I was on Ultra Sign Up.
No, you weren't.
I was. As you know, and everything's gonna be okay in a couple days, right? But I was like, I was feeling pretty good and motivated, like with what I just accomplished. I'm like, what's coming up that I could just jump into, like 50K or 50 miler? And my mind's always in the mountains, so it wasn't. But I saw the Cowboy backyard.
Oh.
And I was like, I'm like, where's this at? And it's where I dropped.
Gosh.
And I don't know. It's some little loop you do on the Cowboy. I didn't look at the whole thing. I'm like, nope, scrolled past that. Then there's some other ones coming, HPRS puts one on in December at 55K. And then I was like, oh, that looks good. Then, me and Mike have been talking about this route we want to do. So I was like, you know what? I got this route that I'll finish up the year with then. But I've already started making some plans for next year, which is very unusual for me. I usually don't do that, but I've already got some stuff that I'm going to do next year later on. Once I, make those all, I'm going to actually do something I've never done. I want to do a race plan for next year.
Wow. Nice.
I've never done that.
Yeah.
But I think I deserve it and I need to. I got some, things going in my life that it's going to allow me to be able to do that now. So why not? And I think that will give me the motivation to do what I need to do. So I think I will put this one out there. I think my first race will be in February and it'll be Stories Ultra 15 hour.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They used to have the 30 hour.
That's HPRS, right?
Yep. They used to have a 30 hour, but they got rid of some of their overnight races for reasons. I was hoping to do that one, but I'm good with the 15 hour. I volunteered out there quite a bit, and it's a really cool course and really cool way they do things out there. So
I'm sure John would love to have you back.
Yep. So that'll be, I think my first race of 26 will be in February. So
yeah, cool. Well, that'll be a great one to drop back into. And it's a timed race, so if you go 12 hours, then it doesn't matter.
Yep. And this one's also good too, because it's up to Mother Nature what the conditions are going to be.
Yeah.
It's either going to be.
I've seen some videos of some really fun courses and some that are not really fun.
Yeah. I mean, 1 year, the volunteers had to shovel out the campground just so people could get in there and park.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But that year was really fun because when it got all packed out, like there wasn't a pebble in sight and you could just bomb.
Yeah. That's
maybe
cool.
not at night. You might put your micro spikes on, but
yeah, that's true.
I
know. Yep. Well, sweet, man. It was fun spending, I don't know how many hours we spent together, 8 hours. It was a lot of fun to spend 8 hours. I don't know, 38 miles, 8 hours. I don't know what it was, but
well, we gotta flip this over to you now. Like, we're not gonna go through my normal questions because I want to know though. So when you left me, when I got to the aid station, you were sitting down. We both had some blister stuff, but nothing. I don't think both of us could have. Weren't a big issue for me. I don't know about you. I know you got some work done. But when you left at that point, where were you at? I could tell you were down a little bit. I don't know if it's because I quit or where you were at. I didn't ask because there was no room for it.
I don't think I was down at that point. I think I was still good. Mentally, I don't think I was ever really down. I think I was good, actually, the whole time. I was for sure at leaving that aid station. I don't think that I was down. I think I was fine. Yeah, it was a bummer that you had dropped, and it still had 160 miles that potentially I was going to be by myself. So there was tons of people out there all around us. So we were never by ourselves. There was always people within eyesight. I mean, you could see for 100 miles, so eyesight, but
that was the weird part about it.
Yeah, never really alone though. There was people always around you. But no, I wasn't down at that point. I did have a lot of blisters, and I don't know what the cause of that was. I wore road shoes, which I'm not sure if that was the right choice. I think I'm not going to go back and do it again, but if I was to go back and do it again, you guys know I'm not a race repeater. So if I was to go back and do it again, I think I would go with like a rails to trail type road trail shoe.
Yeah, mix.
Yeah, instead of like, I saw people wearing road shoes. I saw people wearing like legit trail shoes. And I saw some people wearing like that mixture shoe. And I have a lot of those mixture shoes. And I wish I would have just done that. I don't know why I didn't. I wore like a real cushioned road shoe. And I think that was a mistake, and it caused a lot of blisters. Trail shoes vent, right? They're made to get water in them for them to vent. Road shoes are not. They're meant to hold moisture in for some reason. You're not going to vent your shoes. There's no like drainage on the bottom of the shoe where a trail shoe has. So my socks got wet just from the pure freaking 90-degree heat, and all that moisture buildup really caused blisters. I made a mistake of not having good socks in the bag that my crew was carrying around, and they were just thicker socks. Would have been fine for, the nighttime, but they were a bit thicker. And so I decided to put the socks that I'd been wearing back on. They weren't soaking wet, but they were wet, right?
They're wet, yeah.
And so I'd let them dry out a little bit before putting them back on. But yeah, I got some footwork done. And at mile 38, I had a ton of blisters at mile 38, and I was just like, God, this is going to be awful. And, like after you sit there for a while, you get your blisters popped, get them taped, and you get back up walking, like you can feel the pain, but eventually that, the pain kind of just numbs and it goes away. So it wasn't terribly a big deal, but I didn't have a set of shoes. I did have a set of shoes. I apologize. I did have a set of shoes, and I should have changed it at 38, and I don't know why I didn't, but I think it wouldn't have made a difference, right? My issues weren't feet, point. But I should have changed the shoes, and I shouldn't have started with those shoes. That's the blister issue. It had zero effect to why I DNF'd. But at that point, no, I was fine mentally. I was good. I had really no issues. I mean, always seeing your crew always just kind of perks you up a little bit. And so that was the last time I was going to see Bethany and Elowen, because they were going to go back to the hotel, and then I was going to see them the next day. So I knew that I was going to be 60 miles or so, probably the 100-mile, 82. I think there was an 85 and 100-mile mark is where we could have potentially seen them, depending on how it was moving. It was going to be 40 to 60 miles before I saw them again. But I had other friends coming in to pick up the crewing duties, and they were going to meet at the 60-mile mark, which was from where I left. The next manned aid station was a marathon away, which, holy crap, dude, that's mentally draining, knowing that you have a marathon ahead of you. Now there was a water stop at 5 miles after leaving that aid station before you hit the reroute. And that reroute was long. It was 11 miles long. 11. Man, it was long. And it was asphalt the whole time.
Yeah, let's describe those reroutes, because bridges were out on the Cowboy Trail.
Yeah.
So what they did was route you off the trail, and the first reroute, if we would have continued going straight, I think it was like 4 miles.
Yeah.
Just to the next town. But
it was another 4 miles too to the next town from the reroute.
Yeah, so they take you off the trail, and we did 8 miles on the first one to go 4 miles, and the second one is another 4 miles for 11 miles. Those just are mind fucks.
They really are. Yeah. They really are. So, I met up with some guys. It was that Rich guy. I forget his last name. But yeah, I met up with Rich at about that 5 mile marker where that cooler was to resupply your water at 5 miles. They made an 11-mile section to go until we got to the gas station that we could go into the gas station. And that was about 54, 55 miles is where that gas station was. I don't know exactly what the mileage was.
I think, yeah.
So I was walking with them. They were putting down a pretty good 16-minute mile walk, and I was hanging with them. But hey, man, that heat just started pounding and pounding on me, and that asphalt was just it was just reflecting. I was just like, yeah, I was dying. At about mile 50, I remember I recorded a video at mile 50, and at that point I'd already stepped back from them because I just couldn't keep that pace anymore, because I started getting dizzy. I started getting lightheaded. And a couple times I thought I was going to pass out. And so I was like, all right, well, let me slow down a bit. So I slowed down to kind of what our pace was in the walk, which was like a 17, 18. That's kind of where we were walking. And I was like, okay, maybe I can do this, right? But man, it just started compounding. I was kind of feeling my skin, and I still had that sun hoodie on. So I kind of rolled my sleeves up a little bit to get some air in, and I could feel my skin was just like that cool, clammy, almost wet, but not sweating. And I reached behind my back to see if my back was wet, and it wasn't. It was dry. And I was like, man, At this point, it's about 70 degrees. And I only know this because of Nate had told me. I was talking to Nate and I was telling him I was shivering. And he said he looked down at the car and it was 70 degrees and I was shivering. Yeah, that was not good. When I backing up a little bit before you dropped, right when you said I met you at that turnoff before we had to walk 3 miles to get to that aid station, that was the last time I peed. So I don't know what time that was, but that was a long period.
It was probably about 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
3:20ish.
I didn't pee until I got back to the hotel at almost 1 a.m.
Yeah,
In that time, I drank after leaving you, I drank a 3-liter bladder almost. And I drank 2 17-milliliter bottles. I had Element in them. I was taking salt pills. I was staying up on my food. I was eating 40 to 60 grams of carbs an hour, taking in at least 500, if not more, of electrolytes. The water was still flowing. My mouth was so dry. I couldn't get that dryness out of my mouth. The only thing I had going for me is my stomach wasn't upset. I was like, okay, I know all of this can be made up, right? And so, like, I'm smart. I've been a firefighter for 19 years. I've worked in the medical field, it just as long, with tons of medical training. So I knew what to look for. I knew the signs were there. I was close to heat exhaustion, but I'm like, my stomach's still good. And so I'm going to get to this gas station. I'm going to go inside. It's going to be cold. I'm going to cool my body temperature down. I'm going to get a bunch of sugar in me and, start trying to spike myself back up. So I got like a Gatorade, like it wasn't a Gatorade, but it was like an electrolyte drink. It had like 1,000 milligrams of sodium and all kinds of the other potassium and magnesium. So I got that. I downed that. I downed a sparkling water. And then I got a sweet tea. I don't know, like an Arizona sweet tea that had tons of sugar in it. And I downed it and I ate a Snickers bar. I'm sitting inside. I'm shivering still. So I'm like, I can't do this. I got to go outside. So I go outside. There's a couple other people sitting out there, doing their feet up, popping blisters. I also pulled shoes off and was popping blisters. And I started feeling pretty good. I was like, okay, I got some sugar in me. I'd sat there probably an hour between the inside and outside. And I'm like, okay, let's walk. I had 10 miles to the next aid station at 64 miles where I was going to meet crew again. I was like, okay, I think I can do this. So I get on the trail. I start walking down the trail, and about a half mile down the trail, everything that I had eaten, I threw up.
And drank. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was just like, all of
everything.
All of it came out. At that point, I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to push myself for what, right? And so, and it wasn't just one time throw up, because maybe if it was like one time, I was like, okay, cool. But I threw up like 5 or 6 times. And so, like, I completely emptied my stomach. And so, yeah, I was like, that's it. That's it. I'm not going to push any further because it's not worth it. At this point, it's like 11 o'clock at night. The heat is going to come back the next day on Saturday, and then again on Sunday. It's just like all of this is going to compound. And so I made the decision to pull the trigger.
And this was your first DNF, right?
This was my first DNF.
Now, a week removed, how do you feel about it?
I am still very confident in my decision that it was the right one. And yeah, it stings. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat saying like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. Like, of course I wanted a 200-mile buckle. Like, who doesn't? And so, I think, I don't know. I think talking about it, I recently started a newsletter, and I was able to sit down and write about kind of my experience. And I think that helped, writing about it. I think talking about it here is helpful. DNFs are part of ultras. There's a line that I always say, and it's something Laz said, is like, you can't do anything without the possibility of failure. And so I think that quote, though I've quoted it a million times, that it really didn't hit home until this experience. It's real. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, And our community is so incredible. Obviously I put online that I DNF'd, and it's like the amount of messages that I got and the amount of phone calls and the amount of text messages, DMs. It's just like, wow, this is an incredible community. You're definitely not alone, because if you've been in this sport any time, you're probably have a DNF under your belt. And so, knowing that others have gone through this, and it's a very common occurrence, typically 50% within the ultra community. So yeah, I'm not going to lie to you when I say that it stings. And I wish there's parts of me like, well, maybe you could have kept going, or like, what if you would have gone to that 10-mile section and, sat down because by that point you have tons of time, right? It's like, what if I would have just maybe took a nap there? And, you can what if yourself all day. And, but I think, looking back, I made the right decision. And I don't know if you remember, but I had a scare at the Kettle Moraine 100 back in June. But, I was 65 miles in of 100 miles, and I had like 20 hours to finish the race. And so, the last 40 miles, I kind of just walked it. But I had a similar scare there too. And so, um, and I pushed through on that one. But I think it was different circumstances. But
Yeah,
I
totally
just thought
different.
that I thought that this one, being that the amount of time that we still had, I was like, man,
Yeah.
it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. So I'm confident in the decision I made. It stings. It sucks. But as I've said many times, this won't be my last starting lines.
Yeah, I think that, it's the mature response. Our ego can get away in a lot, and to finish something that maybe some gratitude, dopamine hit, instant gratification type thing, we want from our peers, right? When you have to step back and go, I didn't do this. It doesn't make you any lesser of a person. I think it makes you a stronger person. I know you could have pushed on. I know you could have. When I woke up and my phone was blowing up all over the place, I was like, what the hell's going on? And I finally realized, and that's when I called, because uh, I was like, you know, then once you told me, I'm like, heat exhaustion is no joke, right?
Yeah.
And like you just said, you have a daughter and you have a wife that you love and mean the world to you. And I don't mean this any wrong way, but for a 200-mile buckle, it's never worth that. It never will be.
No, not at all. Not at all.
But I know in our minds sometimes we think it is for whatever reasons, lots of reasons, whatever it is. But for you to go, this is your first DNF, I think if you made it to that 100K mark, you would have probably been in worse shape because you would have probably had to lay down and take a nap. Nate and Linnea would have been there for you, but you probably would have had to stop there. But who knows what damage you would have done in that next 10 miles just from there. I've had heat exhaustion to the point where I've been laid out for 2 days because I didn't know what it was and those things. It's no joke. It's not something we play around with. And for you to know not pee for that many hours. And we both were drinking and eating like crazy. Like I was drinking so much water and taking electrolytes when, I did have a little mix up where I didn't take one with me, but I got back to it. But I had plenty of salty stuff with me. Like I've never really drank so much in, 40 miles ever. I don't know. And one thing for me, I had some signs of heat exhaustion when I got back and got into the hotel room. I was in the shower. I started shivering. In the shower, I'm
Yeah, you
shivering.
told me that.
So I knew right then and there, I'm like, oh man, I've never shivered in the shower before. Exactly knew what it was. Had to jump out when I got out of the shower. I pretty much just, got some clothes on and jumped right into that bed and covered up with the blankets. Then I remember I woke up and I was just sweating profusely and I was cold. So I turned the air conditioner off. And then when I woke up, I was just sweating so bad. So I turned the air conditioner on. Then for about an hour, I was just wake up cold, put the blankets on, wake back up to sweating. And I knew at that point that, I had some of it and I was pretty far removed from it. So I've never experienced that. I stopped about 4 o'clock and that was about 11 o'clock at night when I was woken up those times. So if I would have kept going, I would have been probably in the same spot you were. I guarantee I would have been in the same spot you were.
We would have been both
throwing up
struggle
after
busting together.
at that gas station throwing up. This brings up a point, you said you'd never do again. I had my thoughts and I made it clear that I was scared about this flat race. I I've done flattish stuff in time events, but it's been a timed event with very short distances to go, so you're always at an aid station. There's no way I could ever do something like that ever again. It just for me, it was not enjoyable. You could see, like you said, for 100 miles. I run to see the views, have the hard climbs, the stuff when it's a hard mountainous course and those people are up at the aid station and I'm going to go back to Bighorn, those people packing the stuff in with the horses. It's like those people are here for me. They're here to see me succeed. And I'm not saying they weren't at 200 at the Cowboy 200, but it's like we just drove here and unloaded the car in a fire station. And I'm not taking anything away that people accomplish, but that's just not me. That doesn't motivate me. Those people motivate me when they're middle of nowhere. Like, I know I talk shit about Leadville, but those llamas that pack all that stuff up every year to let Hope passes, those people are counting on that.
They were burros this year.
Were they burros this year?
Burros, yeah.
Man, maybe the llama people are done, but
changing it up.
I've got to hang out with those llamas and they're so cool. Anyways, they just not my thing. I won't be doing another flat race like that again.
It's not really your style.
No. I just had to reinforce it. No. Well, I don't have anything more to add to our DNF story.
Yeah, I think we're good. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review, leave us a comment, follow us on YouTube, Instagram, whatever. And I guess we'll see you on the trails.
Yep.
Just not a flat trail.
Not the Cowboy Trail.